Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and today I'm reviewing Railroad Tiles from Horrible Guild. Railroad Tiles is a 1-to-4 player tile-laying game based on the original game Railroad Inc., also from Horrible Guild. Also, it's 1-to-4 players officially, but if you have the deluxe edition or possibly expansion, it does have components for a 5th player as well. So just know which version you're getting, either 1-to-4 or 1-to-5 players. The general idea is it's a tile-laying game. You're going to be taking these tiles over here on this board, you're going to be selecting rows, we'll talk more about how that operates in a second, and then once you have a row, you get to add it to your city, making sure you connect things to their proper sides as you work to build out your city, with a whole lot of ways that things will score. So grab tiles, add them to your city, score points. That's the basic idea of the game. The specific structure, though, is you're going to start each round by taking one of these tiles, placing it out. That's going to be the type of component that players can take, and it's going to lead into your decisions as to which column of tiles you take. Because, for example, this first player over here, they could take this column over here, taking the 4 tiles in this column. The problem is the second phase of the game is going to involve you placing pieces onto your tiles. So for example, they'll go over here taking this tile row over here because they can place this out over here, which has a spot for a car. That little blue divot over there, that's the spot where you place the car. And so building based around what you're going to be drafting is a big part of the game. We'll place this over here, we'll do that over here. We're slowly building things out as we build out our city. There we go, we drafted our tiles. Next player can go. Again, they can take 4 tiles, or they can take 2. The last blue car over here is only on this. They might decide that they want to take the 4 because even though they won't benefit from the car, having a bunch of tiles, there's a lot of ways to score points in this game, and so more tiles is one of the things that will help you score points, so it's a bit of a trade-off. Do you want the extra blue car, or do you want more tiles? The next player choosing between 3 and the 2 over here, they might go ahead and take the 2, leaving the last player to take the 3, leaving this column unselected, which will have a star added to it at the end of the round. It's worth noting, stars over here do allow you to take a different type of piece than what's shown over here. So stars do buy you flexibility, and players start the game with a star, so even the players in that first round who have this situation where they don't have the required car could go ahead and swap in a star to take a different meeple instead. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. The point is, you draft tiles, then you draft meeples. So again, the second stage of the round over here, players will look over here at these tiles, and right now there's just one in the first round, but each round that's going to move along, and then they select the specific cars over here, or in this case a car, they put it on their pips, and then they score. The way these things score is going to be mostly the same, but a little bit different. Cars are going to score 1 point for the car, plus 1 point for every other car along the same roadway already. For example, if this player places another car out, they will get 2 points because they get 1 plus 1. Versus if they have this over here, where it wasn't connected, they would still only get 1. That count would once again be 1. You're trying to build a network of cars. Similar rules are going to be in place for the trains. On train tracks, same exact rule. You want to look for a connected section of tracks, and trains will score that way. Versus passengers, the people, they have the most flexibility because they can actually score through stations. These spots over here where trains and where the tracks and the road meet, those are stations, and people can score based on the entire network availability, giving you the most flexibility to being able to build up a nice big group of people and score accordingly. So that's going to be one of the ways you're trying to score points in this game. And you are only playing out across 8 rounds. Every round you're going to add a new token, giving you more things that are going on. Then next round is going to come out a new token, and then they're going to start phasing off the edge as you place out these tokens. You're going to have 8 total rounds to take tiles and put the pieces on them, and across those 8 rounds you're trying to build up larger and larger networks of the same train, car, or person types in order to get those escalating points as you go. But when you're done, there's also end game points. There's going to be 3 things that score for the end of the game, and that's before we get into modules and expansions. The 3 things you're going to score for, 2 positive, 1 negative, is you're going to score points for your largest rectangle. So you look at your largest rectangle. I'm just going to grab a bunch of tiles and build out a rectangle over here so you have something to score for. And right now, in this hypothetical, if this were the end of the game, you'd have a lot more tiles. But if this were the end of the game, my largest rectangle is a 2 by 3, and that's going to score me 6 points. You're going to lose 1 point for every exposed connection past the first 5. So for example, if we look over here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 connections, so we won't lose any points. But if you have, let's say, 8 exposed connections, you subtract 5 and you lose 3 points. And then lastly, you're going to get points for your cities. You get 5 points for every city. A city is a grouping of 3 or more of these blue tiles with the houses on them. Those are town tiles. Once you have 3 or more touching, that's a city, and each different city that's not touching each other will score you 5 points. That's the basic idea of the base game. You're trying to draft tiles, then you're trying to draft the various vehicle types, the meeple types, and then you're trying to score for in-game points as well as end-game points. Now within the base game, there's also still modules. There's going to be these tiles over here, which give you different ways of scoring. You're going to pick 3 of these tiles. Each has a different way that they score, with a little bit of a play rate on them. Honestly though, that's not great. You kind of need the rules for it. It serves at best as a reminder. But you're trying to gather these special tiles. Each player is going to have it. So let's say we play with these 3 special tiles. Every player is going to take a set of them. And whenever one of these come out with the flag, you can see over here, some have flags, some do not. Whenever a flag tile comes out, players have to place a special tile on the board, which gives them more ways to put things on the board, but each special tile has a way that it scores, and if you achieve that, you'll get 5 points, and if you don't, well, you won't. So that's giving you another degree of modularity to the game, giving you these 8 special tiles, or 7 special tiles, of which you choose 3 from those 7, and score with those as you play. And then the last degree of modularity is going to be the expansions, and that is going to come down to which version of the game you have, but right now I have the deluxe edition with all the expansions, and so there are 8, I believe it's 8. I think it's 8 plus 1, I can double check, but it's 8 plus 1 expansions if I recall correctly. Each expansion brings a different flavor of tiles that you add to the game, each coming in their own separate bag. We're going to be drafting tiles from the basic tiles over here, but you're going to be putting out tiles in the rows as well that are from expansions, only choosing 1 core expansion per game, and then those are going to give you different ways of mixing things up. So for example, we have over here the lakes. This is so far the only expansion I've played with so far. We have all these lake tiles that give you different ways of scoring, and different tiles, and different rules around those tiles, and often different meeples as well, giving you a way to mix up the gameplay. Plus there's an additional expansion, the Variable Tiles World expansion, and that can be mixed in with every other expansion. So you have the base game, you have the special tiles, then you have 1 core expansion, and plus if you want it, the Variable Tiles World expansion. That is how you play the game, and with that we're going to dive into my review of what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, starting off with what I like, although I should say this is a review of the core game, plus the fact that I have played with one of the expansions, so I am going to talk a little bit about how expansions can mix up my feelings of the experience. This is not a review of the full everything, all the expansions, all that. I do plan to, or I should say hope. I hope to do a review of absolutely all the everything. I hope to do a review of everything once I've played through all of the expansions. Once I've played through all the expansions, mixed and matched, added and world, I hope to do a full review, a full deep dive of everything. For right now, this is base game, plus telling you how an expansion mixes that up. With that said, what do I like about the game? Tile laying to begin with is a fun game mechanic. The idea of building out little structures with certain rules around how you're trying to optimize, it's a system that works. Carcassonne is arguably the one that made it the most popular, but many games have done that same system because it's fun to build out networks. It's fun to watch your city develop and grow, and it's fun to do so while trying to manage the different ways you score points, both in-game and end-game, and then possibly the modules and then possibly expansions, giving you a ton to consider. The game is very easy to teach and get people up and running. It's a 5-minute teach. It's a pretty straightforward gameplay. Plays in like roughly 30 to 45 minutes, depending on player count. And it gives you a lot to consider as you go. Those in-game points are super important. Building up a strong network of tons of cars and just get, or tons of anything, honestly. Pick a resource type and then try to build that larger and larger because those points will escalate. Going 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, it gets very, very strong towards the end of that sequence, and trying to get as many of a single type as you can really gives you a lot of room to score a lot of points. But sometimes doing that is going to come at the trade-off of everything else you're managing. Are you working towards those cities? Are you working towards that large rectangle? Do you have too many exposed edges? Are you working towards your special tiles that you have in the game as well? There's a lot of different ways that you score points, and trying to juggle all of these competing cross areas of points is where the strategy of the game comes in. And so ultimately, Railroad Tiles, it gives you a very easy to learn game, very easy to play game, relatively quick playing, lots of variability from, well, not a lot of variability from the base game, a little bit of variability from the base game. Those extra modules are nice, but the core experience is going to be pretty straightforward. But then once you have the expansion, giving you a ton of variability to how the game is going to iterate and play as you mix in different expansions, which will shift up your experiences. And they also, I don't know if I said this, they also add more special tiles as well, so you have even more of those to go through as far as what competing objectives you're trying to manage and play with. Ultimately, it's a combination of simple, accessible, and strong variability that's going to give Railroad Tiles its pros. As far as the things I don't like about the game, one small-ish pet peeve is very often I find in this game you get to a point, if you're playing it efficiently, you can get to a point where you have you're drafting things perfectly, but you're just not able to get enough tiles to put all of these in on a turn. You can put up to 3 of these in on a turn on the right turns, but it's not often that you actually get all 3. For example, over here, we have 4 tiles out, only 1 allows for the placement of something, and it's very rare that you're going to be able to. I would say, I think every game I've played has gotten to a point where the amount of stuff I just could do, meaning I felt I was being efficient, and the problem is I'm being almost too efficient because the game doesn't give me the tiles necessary to place things into them. And that's just not a satisfying experience for me when I feel I'm doing everything correctly, and the game still just, the math of it doesn't allow me to get everything out of it. That's a little bit more frustrating than if I just felt I was playing it wrong. And so, again, just the way the tiles are, like, I will say that I will probably be house ruling to just add another tile to each stack for 2 reasons. 1, more tile building is fun. I like more tile building. And 2 is that would hopefully allow for a situation where I'm not always placing things on the board, and then I'm like, oh, well, I could take a red, but I got no spaces for reds because I've been taking as many tiles as I can, and it just is what it is. And so that small complaint as far as the ratio of tiles relative to the stuff you can put in those tiles, I found that I felt a little constrained by the game as opposed to constrained by my choices, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'll probably be house ruling at some point to add an extra tile to the bottom of each row for every player, which also, by the way, will make the disparity between the 2 tile spot and the 4 tile spot less punishing as well, because 2 to 4 versus 3 to 5 feels like a better ratio as well. Obviously, if you do that, you need more tiles or to play at the non-maximum player count. You can't play a 4-player game without the 5-player tiles if you're going to add more tiles to the game. Outside of that, I'll say it could benefit from play raids. That's definitely a big thing as well. Again, like the individual tiles do have stuff on them, but I feel a better play rates could have been beneficial as opposed to constantly having to trust the rulebook. It's not terrible, the game is simple enough, but I felt that a small play raid could have made the game even simpler, especially with all the expansion stuff. Like having a single play raid for all the special tiles that you can mix in, that would have been nice to have, although I do understand the complexities of making content for base games and expansions, or either or. I understand the complexities. It would have been better for the user experience, in my opinion. As far as I can see, others not liking, first of all, the game is a little straightforward. It's definitely a little bit on the lighter side. Like, this is very much, we haven't talked about this, is very much heavily based on Railroad Inc. They just took Railroad Inc., which is a rolling dice and then drawing those routes, and they made a tile laying game out of it. So it's heavily based on that system, but the overall system is pretty straightforward. This is a lighter game. It's a lot of things to think about as you try to optimize your score, but it still is a lighter gateway game that's going to be more family friendly, more gateway friendly, and I would say that you can definitely play it with your game group. I certainly have and have had fun doing so. But it is more of a lighter, let's have a chilled, relaxed night, as opposed to a heavy strategy game. And then secondly, I'll say that luck of the draw is a factor. At the end of the day, with the tiles you're trying to build towards and how things come out, and what these token spots come out for the placement, there's so many small areas where luck of the draw is a factor as far as how well it works with the city type that you're building, as well as turn order and all of that. Again, it's a lighter game. These things can certainly impact the experience. As far as final thoughts on Railroad Tiles, I just say final thoughts with the experience of having played the base game, plus having played the base game with one expansion, just to be able to try to see what it adds. I think Railroad Tiles is fairly straightforward. To me, I put it under what I can see others not liking, because there's room for different experiences in my collection, so it's not an issue of not liking it, it's just an issue of that you have to know where the game lies for you. For me, this is a fun, easy-to-teach game that I'm definitely coming in with the bias of loving Railroad Inc., and so this feels very reminiscent of that in a way that doesn't replace it, but nicely complements the different but similar experiences I can get out of it. It is fun to draft tiles. It is easy to play. It's very straightforward. It's very easy to incorporate and mix and match expansions. To me, the base game on its own, if not accounting for the variability that expansions bring, the base game on its own would almost certainly be a 3.5 out of 5. Not because the experience isn't good, but because the experience would be a little bit repetitive. Going through the exact same structure every single time is going to lose some of the luster as after those first few games. But the ability to mix in expansions to me does bump the game up to a 4 out of 5. There's a lot of expansions, and having played with at least one of the expansions, I can tell you that it already mixes up the gameplay experience and gives you a lot more to consider. Again, this is very reminiscent of Railroad Inc. if you've played that, where you have a core structure, but Railroad Inc. without the expansions is just a less fun game. Railroad Inc. with the expansions is a lot more modular, a lot more fun, and really forces you to stay on your toes as you work to incorporate different small levers of play. And that's going to be true for Railroad Tiles as well. Again, I've only played one expansion so far, but I can already see how much it changes up the base game, and the sheer amount of expansions means that I think this is a game that is going to constantly stay fresh because of them, even though you can't really mix and match, although I do wonder how much you can house rule that. But strictly speaking, especially if you're adding extra tiles, the way if I add extra tiles to the column, you probably could house rule multiple expansions, but that's a conversation for another day. For right now, I will say that to me, I'm giving the game a 4 out of 5, with the caveat that that 4 out of 5 is based on having expansions incorporated into the experience. Base game on its own would be a 3.5 out of 5. As far as other game recommendations, definitely check out Carcassonne, like I mentioned already. If you're looking for one of a very similar feeling, but a different game, but also it's one of the older, most popular tile-laying games with tons of expansion modularity. Carcassonne is definitely one to check out. And similarly, Railroad Inc. I've been saying it throughout this video because Railroad Inc. is a fantastic game. I think if you like Railroad tiles, you'll like Railroad Inc., and I think vice versa. I think there's room for both in your collection, but certainly not a necessity for both. Depending how economical you are with what goes on your shelves and how much time you have for things, you might find yourself picking one over the other, but I think both are very good in their own separate and yet different ways, or separate and different, not and yet different, because those are the same thing. In any case, then until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this review helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.